Hi, welcome back to Baking Unafraid. It is Pie Crust Part 2 time. How is everyone doing today? Thank you for returning back to Baking Unafraid with me, David. It's great to have you. And this is Pie Crust Part 2. So, have you all watched Pie Crust Part 1? Because if you haven't, you gotta go watch Pie Crust Part 1. If you haven't watched the Part 1, I will put the link in the description below, or there should be like a little thingy up here that you can press. So go watch Part 1 to make sure that you're that pie crust expert. So yeah, this is Part 2. So a brief little summary of what Part 2 is gonna be about. I am going to go over rolling out your dough, and I will also go over crimping the dough, get that little pretty design around the pie crust that we all love so much. And then I will lastly go over blind baking. And no, I do not mean baking like this. Please never bake like that. Are you ready to get started? Let's do this. So to get ready for our pie crust dough, the first thing we need to do is flour our surface. So just put some flour on the countertop, like so. Perfect little place for our dough to go. Now I'm gonna take my dough. It's been sitting out of the refrigerator for about 5 minutes just to take the chill off, so it's gonna be easier to roll out. It's a crucial step. So tip for this week, make sure you take your dough out at least 5 minutes just to let the chill come off. So we're gonna take this dough and we're going to flip it down onto the counter. And then we're gonna take a little more flour. We're gonna sprinkle some over top the dough, and then we're also gonna put some flour on our rolling pin. Make sure that nothing sticks. So the technique with rolling is you always want to push away, and then you just come back. You don't actually put pressure when you come back. So we're just gonna push and turn. Push and turn. So if you're seeing cracks in your dough, no fear. You are totally okay. Take some water, just like some room temperature water, and you just kind of press over the crack, kind of pushing it together. And this kind of glues the cracks back up. You don't have to do this every time. You won't always get cracks. It just happens from time to time. The best thing to remember is when things like this happen, to just remain calm. As Julia Child always say, what they don't see in the kitchen, they don't know. So no one has to know that there was cracks in your crust. It's our secret. A little extra flour. And then just kind of like sprinkle that over those wet spots, because we still need to roll out the dough. And now we're looking for a dough that is about 1/4 of an inch thick. And you want to roll your dough out so it is a little bigger than your pie pan. I'll be using a 9-inch glass pie dish. To see if your dough, your pie crust dough is big enough, you just take your dish and you can just kind of set it on top of your dough and see, like, is it, going far and beyond your dish, which this one definitely is. I'm gonna give it a couple more rolls and then we can go ahead and put it in our dish. All right, so now you're wondering, how do we lift this pie crust dough and put it into the dish? So you're gonna take your rolling pin. This is one of my favorite tools. I will also put in the description below a link to where you can buy one of these pins. And you're just gonna take your dough and you're going to roll it over the pin. You're basically rolling it up, kind of like a big cinnamon roll or something. And if you have a brush, or even maybe like with a paper towel, take a brush or a paper towel and you're just gonna kind of brush off the excess flour as you're rolling it. Just kind of gonna brush it off just like that. All right, and so then we're gonna take our pie dish and we are going to gently lift up our dough and we're just going to unroll it over the pie dish. And if it cracks a little bit, like I said, we bake it unafraid. We ain't scared no cracks. So what I'm doing is I am making sure the dough is nice and fit in the pie dish. So you just kind of very gently go around the dish and make sure it's sitting in all the right spots. So we get something that looks like this. So now, as you can see, we have all of this pie overhang. So grab a pair of kitchen shears, or you can use a knife. Kid, please have your parents do this part. And you're just gonna cut around the pie dish, leaving a 1/2 inch of dough to hang over. And then, so now we have our dough in our dish with the 1/2 inch overhang. And what we're just going to do is we're gonna lift up that 1/2 inch and we're gonna put it right under. And that's gonna be our edge of our crust. So we're just lifting and putting that 1/2 inch under. Our 1/2 inches are tucked under like nice little babies. They're tucked to sleep. And we're gonna go ahead and do the famous pie crimp, which is actually pretty easy. So you take your pointer and your thumb, and then your thumb on your other hand, and then you're gonna basically go onto where you just folded that 1/2 inch under, and you're just gonna press your thumb and your other thumb and pointer finger together like this. And now you're gonna get that crimping that we've all seen so often on those food magazines and food Instagrams. And oh, I don't know if you guys know, I actually have a Baking Unafraid Instagram. You should go like and follow that as well. It's at bakingunafraid.com. And there's other things you could do. You could take a fork and crimp it that way. This is my preferred method. I just like the way it looks. It looks very rustic and homemade. And so once you've crimped your dough, it should look something like this. We're gonna chill this to 15 to 20 minutes, just so that butter, because we've just been working with it again, chills back up. If we were to put this in the oven directly like this, all of your pie is going to melt down the side and into a big pie puddle. And we don't want that. No pie puddles here, no pie puddles. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this in the freezer for about 15 minutes, and then I'll be right back. All right, it has been 15 minutes. Our pie crust is chill. So now we're gonna go ahead and blind bake this. How to blind bake? What you need is parchment paper, and you need pie weights. If you don't have pie weights, you could use dry beans or lentils. Just get them at the store. So super, super easy to use. So basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this parchment paper, crumble it up into a ball. And we do this so that it's nice and malleable, so we can just kind of place this into the pie crust dough. And then we're gonna take our pie weights, or your beans or lentils, and we're just gonna pour them in on top of the parchment paper. So the reason we are doing this is because we are gonna put this pie crust in the oven, and if there are no pie weights, the pie crust would actually start rising and create bubbles. And so this actually makes sure that your pie crust stays flat the entire time, so you have the most amount of room for all that delicious filling you're gonna put in there. So we have our crust, our pie weights, and our parchment paper. What we're gonna do is we're gonna put this in an oven at 375 for 30 minutes. So I got 30 minutes while that pie crust bakes. What should I do? How about I get a workout in? Okay, it has been 30 minutes. Time to take our pie crust out of the oven. We're gonna very, very carefully take our parchment out. It's still hot, and those beans or ceramic pie weights are actually very hot as well, so be very careful. Perfect. And now with our pie crust, we're just gonna place this back in the oven for about 5 to 10 more minutes just to get that bottom browned, and then it should be done. Right, and there you have it. We have the perfect pie crust. Perfectly brown, ready for those custard and cream fillings, and it's so flaky. It's probably the flakiest pie crust I've ever had. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I really, really appreciate all of your support, and I'm excited to see all of the pie crust and pies that you make for this holiday season. So I actually have a filling to go make to put in this crust. Don't forget to keep baking unafraid and be you.